Well, hello, and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and iTWIre TV interview. I'm joined today by George Cvetanovski. He is the CEO of Hyperscalers. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks for having me on your program.
Well, George, let's start at the beginning. What does Hyperscalers offer, and why is Hyperscalers needed in today's market?
Yeah, good question. So Hyperscalers builds and supplies two types of hardware infrastructures. The first is hyperscale, which by definition is infrastructure used by the macro service providers. I'm talking about the Googles, Amazon, Facebook. That's where the name Hyperscalers actually comes from. The second type of infrastructure, more relevant by way of adoption across the community, is a Tier 1 original range. Now, by definition, Tier 1 original basically means that it's hardware currently in use or planned to be in use by Tier 1 OEMs. Now, Hyperscalers procures key server subsystems from the same places as these Tier 1 OEMs go to. I'm talking about the same original design manufacturer, Quanta Computer. We just don't lock down the servers we build, and we don't rebrand them. Simply put, Alex, we offer networks, we offer storage, we offer compute, converged GPU infrastructure systems across both hyperscale and Tier 1 original architectures under a new and open supply chain alternative to the HPEs, to the Dells, to the Ciscos of the world. So to give you an example of why we need it in the community, well, recently we won a publicly listed cloud provider away from Cisco. This cloud provider historically was using Cisco, had been trying to win over enterprise workloads over to their cloud from potential customers that were also using Cisco themselves, right? As you can tell, there was something fundamentally wrong with this model. It wasn't working well, right? Where could the promised economics of cloud possibly come from? So naturally, they came to Hyperscalers for help.
So, and looking at the Hyperscalers site, I mean, you do offer a very wide range of products and services, including end user devices such as laptops and PCs, even labs as a service. So can you please tell us about all of these too? I mean, you must have a thriving business in that area as well.
Yeah, look, to date, we've created over 30 plus appliances with all major software makers, which we've got under one roof. This makes Lab as a Service, or LaaS, very interesting, right? It's the world's first. It enables service providers to basically test drive our appliances before committing to any one. So how does a service provider know whether Red Hat OpenStack may be better than VMware or Azure Stack, right? They all work great on our hardware. They all do infrastructure as a service. So we give them access to test drive through LaaS. Service providers basically run a set of qualitative and quantitative test scenarios, run up their workloads to determine which is right for their business. It's a means to basically de-risk their project too. So look, Alex, our product set is vast. It encompasses end user devices, everything from Google Chromebooks to notebooks to laptops to gaming books. We help our partners build their own branded devices to promote their own brand and build their brand value. But we also have our own branded devices, like our 24-inch all-in-one PC. We happen to be selling that half the price to what JB Hi-Fi or Harvey Norman is selling for an equivalent i5 with an SSD inside.
Well, on that regard, what would that roughly cost?
It's about $750.
Okay, that's pretty good for an i5.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so is that 8 gig of RAM and 256 gig SSD?
Exactly right. It comes with a 3-year warranty as well.
Okay, that's pretty good. I mean, normally that sort of thing would definitely be costing a lot more. And
You look
I
it
guess,
up on
yeah,
JB Hi-Fi. The cheapest i5 with a 24-inch monitor is $1,500, and it comes with 1-year warranty.
yeah. And presumably that's Windows 10, which is upgradable to
Correct.
Windows 11.
You get Windows 10. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sort of speaks to the maturity of today's world that you can create a company that is able to compete with the big players from right to the top of the chain all the way down to, the $700 PC.
Correct. Exactly right.
Yeah. So who are the customers that you serve? What are the types of customers you serve, and how has Hyperscalers resonated with the market? I mean, you've already explained that it's done very well with that company looking to use Cisco products, and you were able to, not steal. Well, you were able to win that market share. But tell us about the other customers you serve. You might not be able to mention names, but certainly industries.
We can mention some names. We can't mention all the names. We'll get in no trouble. But we have a dedicated channel to market, right? Anyone between us and the end customer, defined as a small to medium business or small to medium enterprise or larger, fits into one of our partner categories. So basically these include telcos, original equipment manufacturers, systems integrators, cloud providers. That's probably our biggest. They turn around everything from infrastructure as a service or IaaS to platform as a service or PaaS to software as a service or SaaS. But we also have digital IP owners, right? And they're really software makers that want to create an appliance. We also have managed service providers too, a lot of them.
Sure. And are there any of those customers you want to highlight in Australia? And also, do you have customers internationally?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a bit about that. So really want to start with our repeat telco customers because they're one of our favorites. So domestically, we have both NBN Co and Telstra, right? Some of Telstra's production deployments are literally running in their 5th year of operation, right? Our St. Leonard deployment, our Clayton deployment, that's running in their 5th year of operation, humming along nicely without any problems. We also have OEM customers. Now, these are customers that want to build their own branded appliance, right? So we put a bezel on top of the server. Now, most of these are actually located in the US, and some of them include, JetStore, it's a storage maker, New Wave DV. They've got a really cool FPGA that goes in our servers, and that's just sold as an entire server with their FPGA as an own branded device. But we also have Path Networks. Check them out, path.net. They're securing the internet. We've deployed a lot of compute with very fast speed networks across almost every continent, right, except for Antarctica.
Yeah.
Some of our system integrators include Accenture, Viadex, Storage Data. These are $1 million, systems integrators, billion dollar system integrators. But look, our cloud provider customers are probably too many to list. We have 6YSs, we have Spectrum, we have Prophecy, Amaze, just to name a few. These guys are turning around IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, cheaper than AWS. You should check them out too. Now, for all our overseas exports, we collaborate with DFAT, Department of Foreign Affairs and Trading, the Canberra Business Chamber and the Chamber of Commerce and Industry for the issue of COO, or Certificate of Origin. That's basically a certificate that says that it's Australian made, right? So every time we ship these out, we go out with a certificate where it says Australian made, and that just helps us get through customs under FTAs or free trade agreements that might be in place already. For example, the PAFTA agreement or the Peru-Australian Free Trade Agreement, we were the first to exercise under our industry category to send stuff across under that FTA, which is just done.
Yeah. And I'm guessing you just mentioned DFAT. You must have a range of government customers who want to buy Australian.
Yeah, we're working on that. We're working on that. We've got state government customers such as Victoria Government, Senitex, ACT Government as well. But yeah, we're working on the federal government space.
Sure. Well, hopefully there's some federal government people watching this and realizing they should buy Australian. So what was the spark that brought the idea of hyperscalers to life?
Oh, look, it's common knowledge, Alex, that Facebook, Microsoft, AWS, Google were the first to dump the locked OEM vendors. I'm talking about the HPs, the Dells, and Ciscos in preference for a more cost-efficient way to deliver their cloud infrastructure. And this is going back 10 years ago, right? So we saw change coming, and we wanted to facilitate this change. We wanted to be the driving force behind it. Maybe not to the benefit of our competitors, but certainly to the benefit of the wider community. So we started Hyperscalers. Since then, we've got a lot of smaller size service providers. I'm talking about very large service providers down to smaller size service providers. They too need to realize the economics of our infrastructure because they're competing against the big boys. So they come to Hyperscalers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone's always looking for cost savings and cost benefits without wanting to, go lower on the quality. And of course, when it comes to technology, I mean, it's got to be, everybody wants the, 5 nines of service and, the top quality. So the fact you've been around, I mean, when did Hyperscalers start?
Roughly 10 years ago, almost 9 years ago, roughly.
Yeah. And I mean, I as you were saying, the big guys, the Facebooks and Googles and Amazons, they were quick to, create
change their ways of doing it the same way, right? They were quick
right.
to do it different.
Yeah.
And now what we're seeing is the smaller size service providers wanting to realize similar economics, right? And so they have to change too, right? Yeah. So they come to Hyperscale.
Yeah. Now you mentioned the savings on a Core i5 24 all-in-one inch desktop, about 50% based on what you can get at retail. So what kind of savings do your customers typically see over the lifespan of servers and solutions that they buy from you compared with those locked-in systems?
Yeah, good question. Look, in a digital service-driven world, Alex, the capability to deploy the latest technology and a lot more of it, and I'm talking about 2 times more, maybe 3 times more for any given budget, is absolutely vital to our customers. So whether our service providers are turning around infrastructure as a service, IaaS, platform as a service, PaaS, software as a service, SaaS, the difference between buying HPE or hyperscalers has a profound impact to their business, such as how fast customers' workloads can go, the volume of customers they can carry, all the way to the profit margin they can make, or the level of discounts they can offer. Now, this is hugely important because they need to attract more customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a very competitive world. I mean, how, I know you don't speak for your competitors, but how have you seen them evolving, how they compete with you, seeing as you've come on the scene and sort of upended their business model?
Look, we started from very humble beginnings, Alex. Our first office was just me and myself working from my Kingston apartment. You're in Canberra. I joined 2 dining room tables and filled it with the latest technology, basically. Look, I have to admit, some people that came through couldn't wait to get out, but many others appreciated the startup culture, and we sold enough, right, to scale up, and then we sold enough more again to scale up again. Now we come up against HP, Dell, and Cisco on almost every opportunity. And most of the time we win on merit. Other times we get feedback like, Cisco's got some digital revolution label that everyone's using, right? So overall, look, we're forcing tier 1 OEMs to come down in price to never before seen discount levels, but it's not enough. They can't compete on technology nor on price. Remember, Alex, about 6 years ago or 7 years ago, the OEMs actually did designs on servers and took those designs to ODMs, but that just doesn't happen anymore, right? All the R&D is basically done between the ODM and Intel, or the ODM and AMD, right? Where OEMs like HP, Dell, Cisco, and us basically come and say, well, what can I get, right? And when the ODM says, well, you haven't invested in this R&D and you intend to just change the brand of this, we're not going to give you the latest technology, right? Because we don't change the brand, we get access to the latest technology, sometimes 6 to 12 months ahead of the tier 1 OEMs.
It's a compelling story, and I mean, it's testament to, just as I said before, the maturity of the modern world and the maturity of the supply chain. I mean, all of this would have not been possible 20 years ago, and here we are, and you've built a business. It's exciting. So, as we are, in Q3 2021, what are currently your most popular products?
Yeah, that's interesting. We've been doing a lot of artificial intelligence, machine learning clusters using NVIDIA GPUs for NBN and many other cloud providers. What's really hot at the moment, right now I'm talking about, it's still in its beta release, is NVIDIA's Omniverse suite, right, which runs best on our GPU servers. A lot of cloud providers are starting to inquire about this with the view of taking it up once it's released. So look, our run rate business is always going to be building clouds on behalf of service providers looking to do core workloads, right? So IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. We're doing a lot in the security space too, Alex.
Yeah, well, I was about to ask that, but before I do, I mean, you must be helping a lot of companies with hybrid implementations where they have on-prem servers and cloud, and there must be a lot happening in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. Not just end customers that might have on-prem servers looking to hybrid, but also cloud providers that might have a public cloud. Now, the best way to grow your public cloud business is actually through lots of hybrid cloud deployments, right? So the best way to grow your enterprise public cloud business is to drop a private or hybrid cloud on premise that hybrids back to your public cloud.
Now, you mentioned cybersecurity. It's obviously a hugely important topic today. So how do you help your customers in this regard?
Look, we're doing 2 types of cybersecurity projects, right? The first is for very large service providers who basically do in-house cybersecurity operations. Now, that involves a software stack, and there's lots of different options that we've done or are doing. For example, Kafka, Elasticsearch, Tenable, or Splunk, which just goes on top of our hardware. That's validated, pre-engineered, delivers a known outcome. What we deliver is everything that they need to turn around these services, right? The other type of projects we're also involved in, Alex, is cybersecurity providers that offer a public cloud or a community cloud model. Now, some of these customers include Aegis9 and Hypersec. Check out hypersec.io. They've got some really cool stuff.
So, George, Tell us a little bit about the support. I mean, what happens when something goes wrong with one of the servers? I mean, it's obviously this is something that affects everybody, but how does Hyperscalers deal with it?
Yeah, good question, Alex. Basically, we tailor the support to what the partner requires. Now, some of our customers, like the Telstras, like the NBNs, require next business day on-site support, sometimes 4-hour on-site support. But many of our partnered cloud providers know that they can reduce the mean time to recovery by simply us holding spare parts on site, educating them on how to replace a storage card, educating them on how to replace a network card, educating them on how to update the baseboard management controller, the BIOS, the chassis management controller, firmware I'm talking about. So we educate them to do their own support. Basically, we tailor the support to what the partner requires.
I'm just thinking, I mean, has anyone come up with the term of support as a service? It's like you've trained them how to support themselves.
Yeah,
that's the best support of all. It's proactive support.
Absolutely. Look, these guys, I mean, they're hands-on guys, yeah. Right? They are not coming out from these very large enterprises where the traditional way to do it was to buy a 4-hour on-site support. Yeah. These are service providers, and they know they can fix this problem far quicker themselves than for us that it takes to come on site. Right?
Absolutely. Now, the other question revolves around COVID. We've obviously seen incredible digital acceleration. It's been the theme of the current COVID era. People talk about post-COVID, but given the lockdowns we're still in, it's a long time, I think, before we're going to be in the post-COVID era. So what changes have you seen due to the ongoing COVID pandemic, which has returned working from home to the forefront yet again?
Yeah, look, fortunately, and I have to say thankfully for us, we've been open the whole time. During the first lockdown and now the second, not all staff are working from the office, but essential staff are. We are looking after essential customers. Look, we've had a really good run during COVID. I don't want to brag about how successful we've been, only because we have so many businesses that have been devastated, and that's all I have to say on this, mate.
Sure. Now, before I ask you about memories of your first computer, is there anything else about Hyperscalers that I haven't asked you that you want to tell us about?
Yeah, look, I'll probably say a bit more on we touched base on our LAS, or Lab as a Service. Now, before a product ends up on LAS, it has to go through our IP appliance design process. What it is basically is, it's a process which we couple with a utility that we use to productize these appliances on behalf of service providers. And in doing so, they're able to hyperscale their services very quickly, very reliably, and a fraction of historical cost. So what we're effectively doing is eliminating the problems of custom, one-time engineered solutions through our IP appliance design process. And that's been very useful for many of our partners.
So as we get towards the end of the interview, I've got a few questions that are sort of not about Hyperscalers, not about the business. It's just a bit about yourself, really. What is your memory of your first computer?
Look, we've been involved in computers, and this is going back in Macedonia in 1990. We got our first 286 with color monitor. Later, we got 1991. We got a 386. With the color monitor, playing Prince of Persia. But I've been kind of developing since the age of 10. Little games, started with QBasic, Visual Basic, C++. By the time I got to uni, Alex, I hated developing. So I moved to the design side, more around business analyses. But straight out of uni, I've been basically involved in major infrastructure projects, very large data centers, co-location facilities, working for a company called Datapod, and this is going back 18 years ago.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you about your history in the world of tech, but you more or less just given it there. But was the computer with MS-DOS on it, right? Because there was MS-DOS and then Windows. Was it in Macedonian?
DOS 6.2.
Was it in Macedonian or English?
No, it was all English.
Yeah, okay.
There's no Macedonian. I don't think there was a translation back in those days, but I remember it was DOS 6.2. Windows 3.1 wasn't yet an operating system. Yeah. I think Windows 95 wasn't yet an operating system, but yes, so it was DOS on top with Windows on top. So you had to load up DOS before you can load up Windows.
Yeah. I don't know. I remember all those days well. I mean, my first computer was in 1979, so I went through the whole era of the 80s, and then I remember using DOS Windows 1 and Windows 2, and it was Windows 3 that you finally had the graphical interface. Windows 3.1 was the one that really took off, and then after that, 95 was Windows 95, and of course that changed the world, which was... Now, from the past to the future, how do you see hyperscalers evolving over the next couple of years, and what do you think the industry will look like in 2030?
Yeah, that's quite interesting. So we are seeing, IT becoming more of a commodity, right? So people no longer care whether, you get this brand or that brand or this brand. All they care about is how much of it can you get for less, right? So that's where we see it's going to be more commodity-driven world, where service providers will turn around even more efficient services, hopefully using hyperscaler service.
Absolutely. And so my second last question is, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received in life to help you get where you are today?
Oh, man. Piece of advice. Just go out and do it. Yeah, don't think about it. Just go out and do it. I think the sooner you start, you're halfway there.
Yeah, no, I've heard something similar. They say, perfect is the enemy of good. The best time to start is now. You can fix later. If you try and get everything perfect before you start, you'll never start.
That's right. That's right.
So
Once
George,
you start, you're halfway there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's it. They say the journey of 1,000 miles, begins with a single step. And you got to start. You got to start.
Yep.
So, George, what is your final message to both iTWIre viewers and readers, and to your current and future customers and partners?
Yeah, so take a look at hyperscalers. Stop doing it the old way. Try something different. There are more efficient ways to deliver the necessary resources that end customers require.
Well, George Cvetanovski from Hyperscalers, CEO and founder, thank you very much for your time. I wish you the best of success with getting some of those federal government contracts, but all the work that you do. And I hope that we can speak again in the future.
Yeah, great stuff, Alex. Thanks for having me on your program.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.